my dad being, going to Switzerland and was gonna euthanize himself, and this was all planned, and this was it was not. Absolutely not. That is.
The world stopped for a moment when the news broke. Ozzy Osbourne, the immortal Prince of Darkness, was gone. But for his son Jack, the world didn't just stop, it shattered. And as he stood to give a final farewell, he didn't quote a rock anthem or a famous poet. He quoted an actor, Keanu Reeves. Why? Because Keanu knew a secret about loss, a secret that he had shared with the world and that Jack now desperately needed. The thing nobody tells you is that in moments of pure agony, comfort comes from the most unexpected of places. A rebel's requiem. The world knew Ozzy Osbourne as the larger-than-life Prince of Darkness, a man who seemed to have cheated death more times than a cat has lives. But to Jack Osbourne, he was just Dad. And when the news came, it wasn't a headline, it was a heart-shattering reality. You see, the thing nobody tells you about losing a legend is that the silence they leave behind is deafening. In the weeks that followed, as tributes poured in from around the globe, Jack found himself grappling with a grief that was both deeply personal and strangely public. The world mourned a rock icon, but Jack mourned the man who was his father, his colleague, and in a surprising twist of fate, his recent housemate. The final farewell was a private affair, a stark contrast to the public spectacle of Ozzy's life. And it was here, surrounded by family and the quiet English countryside, that Jack shared something that no one saw coming. It wasn't a funny story from the road or a sentimental memory from his childhood. It was a quote from Keanu Reeves. Yes, that Keanu Reeves. The stoic action hero, the internet's boyfriend, the man who has known his own share of profound loss. Jack, with a voice thick with emotion, recounted an interview he had seen years ago. Keanu was asked the age-old question, "What do you think happens when we die?" And Keanu, in his typically understated yet deeply profound way, answered, "I know that the ones who love us will miss us." For Jack, those words were more than just a comforting sentiment. They were a revelation. They cut through the noise, the speculation, the endless what-ifs, and got to the heart of what truly matters. In that moment, Ozzy wasn't the godfather of heavy metal or a controversial public figure. He was a man who was loved and who would be missed. Immensely. It was a truth so simple yet so powerful that it seemed to hang in the air, a final poignant note in the symphony of Ozzy's life. But how did the words of a Hollywood actor become the final, most fitting tribute to a rock and roll legend? The answer to that question is a story in itself, a tale of two men from different worlds united by a shared understanding of life's most painful and most beautiful truths. But what you don't know is the real story of why Keanu's words hit so hard. A father's final days. Many people are crazy about the idea of living with a rock star, the parties, the stories, the non-stop chaos. But for Jack Osbourne, moving back in with his dad in his late 30s wasn't about reliving the glory days. It was about something much more precious. Time. You see, in the years leading up to his passing, Ozzy was in a battle, a fierce private war against the relentless march of time and illness. The public saw glimpses of it, the shaky hands, the canceled tours. But Jack saw the man behind the headlines, the father who was fighting to stay present, to stay connected, to stay Ozzy. Living under the same roof, Jack and Ozzy forged a new kind of relationship. They were no longer just father and son, they were housemates, confidants, partners in crime. They'd watch TV together, crack jokes, and navigate the surreal reality of their lives. Jack became a gatekeeper, a protector, a buffer between his father and the outside world. He saw the daily struggles, the small victories, the quiet moments of reflection that the cameras never captured. He saw the Prince of Darkness trade his stage for a comfortable armchair, his roaring crowds for the laughter of his grandchildren. And in those quiet moments, Jack saw the real Ozzy. The man who, despite his legendary status, was still just a guy from Birmingham who loved his family more than anything. The man who had lived a life of unbelievable highs and devastating lows and had somehow managed to come out the other side with his sense of humor intact. It was this Ozzy, the housemate, the friend, the text buddy, that Jack was mourning. The man who had been a constant presence in his life, a force of nature that he had always assumed would be there forever. This is why Keanu's words resonated so deeply. Because Jack wasn't just missing a rock star, he was missing his roommate. And this is where the story takes a turn you won't see coming. A shared sorrow. But not all things are what they seem. Keanu Reeves wasn't just some random actor Jack decided to quote. There's a deeper connection here, a shared history of heartbreak that makes his words on loss carry the weight of 1,000 lifetimes. To understand it, we have to go back. Back to a time before The Matrix, before John Wick, to a chapter in Keanu's life that he rarely speaks of, but that has defined him in the eyes of the public as a man of quiet strength and profound empathy. In the late 90s, Keanu was on top of the world, but in his private life, he was living through an unimaginable nightmare. He and his then-girlfriend, Jennifer Syme, were expecting their first child, a daughter they named Ava. But just a month before her due date, Ava was stillborn. The grief was all-consuming, and it ultimately tore their relationship apart. And then, just 18 months later, the unthinkable happened. Jennifer was in a car accident and passed away instantly. She was just 28 years old. Keanu was left to navigate a landscape of grief so vast, so desolate, it would have broken most people. He never spoke about it publicly, not in detail, but his actions spoke volumes. He poured his energy into his work, but there was a new depth to his performances, a sadness in his eyes that seemed to reflect a wisdom far beyond his years. This is the man who said the ones who love us will miss us. He wasn't speaking from a place of philosophical detachment. He was speaking from experience. He was speaking the language of loss, a language that Jack Osbourne now understood all too well. But the real mystery isn't what happened in the past. It's what we're all wondering now. A father's footsteps. So, what are we to make of all this? Is it just a sad story about a son missing his father? Or is there something more going on here? The thing is, when a life as big as Ozzy Osbourne's comes to an end, it forces us to ask the big questions, the ones we usually try to avoid. What happens when the music stops? What is the true measure of a life? Is it the fame, the fortune, the headlines? Or is it something quieter, something more profound? For Jack Osbourne, the answer seems to lie in that simple, powerful quote from Keanu Reeves. A quote that strips away all the noise and gets to the heart of what it means to be human. To love, to lose, and to be missed. It's a message that resonates far beyond the world of rock and roll, a universal truth that connects us all. It suggests that maybe, just maybe, the afterlife isn't some distant, unknowable place. Maybe it's right here in the hearts and minds of the people we leave behind. But then again, this is Ozzy we're talking about. A man who built a career on shocking the world, on defying expectations, on making us question everything we thought we knew. Is it really that simple? Or are we missing a piece of the puzzle? The thing that nobody tells you is that with a life as extraordinary as Ozzy's, there are always more questions than answers. And the biggest question of all is one that we may never be able to answer for sure. But it's a question that will continue to haunt us, to intrigue us, and to make us wonder what really happens when the curtain falls for the very last time. A son's inheritance. But here's where the story dives headfirst into the shadows, into the whispers and rumors that circulate in the darkest corners of the web. Many people are crazy about the idea that Jack's choice to quote Keanu Reeves wasn't just a touching tribute. They believe it was a signal, a coded message to a very select few, indicating that a transfer of power had occurred. Think about it. Jack isn't just Ozzy's son. He's a paranormal investigator, a man who has spent years staring into the abyss on his show, Portals to Hell. He's a man who understands that there are unseen forces at play in the world. The theory goes like this. Ozzy wasn't just the Prince of Darkness in name only. He was a gatekeeper, a man who, through his unique life and energy, held a certain kind of spiritual influence. He was a walking, talking lightning rod for the strange and the unexplained. And now that responsibility, that mantle, has passed to Jack. The Keanu quote, with its talk of what's left behind, wasn't about missing a loved one in the traditional sense. It was about the continuation of a legacy, a spiritual inheritance that is far more complex and terrifying than any monetary estate. You see, Jack's life has been a preparation for this role. His struggles, his journey into the paranormal, it was all training. He was being molded to understand the world his father truly inhabited, a world that exists just beyond our perception. The rumor mill suggests Jack is now the custodian of Ozzy's real secrets. Not just unpublished music or hidden journals, but knowledge of a different kind. Knowledge that explains the uncanny luck, the near-mythical survival, and the strange phenomena that always seemed to surround his father. Jack isn't just mourning, he's stepping into a new dangerous role. He's no longer just Jack Osbourne. He is the new heir to the shadows. But the real question is, what does this inheritance truly demand of us? A game of smoke and mirrors. This is where the rabbit hole goes even deeper, leading to the wildest theory of all. What if the entire story, the grief, the quote, the sentimental narrative is a carefully constructed piece of theater? A grand distraction? The thing nobody tells you about the Osbourne family is that they are masters of the media. These are the people who literally invented the modern reality show, turning their chaotic home life into a global phenomenon. They know how to craft a story, how to pull the public's heartstrings, and, more importantly, how to divert everyone's attention. The real question isn't if they could pull off a deception of this magnitude. The question is, what are they diverting our attention from? Whispers in certain circles suggest the Keanu connection is no coincidence, but not for spiritual reasons. Instead, it points to a hidden alliance, a powerful and secretive group within Hollywood that manages the legacies of its most chaotic and brilliant stars. You see, when a legend passes, it creates a power vacuum. Vultures circle looking to pick apart the estate, tarnish the name, and cash in on the chaos. This secret circle, a modern-day society of fixers, steps in to protect the brand. They clean up the narrative, smooth over the ugly details, and ensure the legend remains profitable and pristine for generations. Keanu, having navigated his own tragedies with impossible grace and emerging as one of Hollywood's most beloved and untouchable figures, is seen as a key player in this circle. His public image is bulletproof. By invoking his name, Jack wasn't just sharing a heartfelt quote, he was deploying a strategic weapon. He was signaling his entry into this very circle, telling the world, and more importantly, telling their rivals, that he was now under the protection of Hollywood's most powerful narrative guardians. He was playing the game on a whole new level. This theory suggests a brutal battle is being waged behind the scenes. A war not just for Ozzy's massive multi-million-dollar estate, but for control of his very image, his story, and the rights to his life. The emotional tribute, amplified by the unimpeachable reputation of Keanu Reeves, was the perfect smokescreen. It was a masterstroke of public relations that painted a picture of a unified, grieving family. This allowed Jack to consolidate power and make critical moves in the shadows, all while the world was busy dabbing its eyes. So is Jack Osbourne simply a grieving son, finding solace in the words of an actor? Or is he a brilliant strategist, a newly minted member of a secret society using a Hollywood legend's reputation to pull off the ultimate gambit? So what do you think? Was this a final message from the great beyond or just a son's heartfelt tribute? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that will make you question everything.